We're talking about a microscopic traveler that has literally shaped human history. It's not a virus, it's not a bacteria, it's a single-celled parasite. And its life story is so complex, so intricate, that it actually needs two completely different hosts just to survive. Today, we're going to trace the incredible and often deadly journey of the malaria parasite. And it all starts with something we've all experienced, a single mosquito bite. Right, we all know a mosquito bite is the starting gun. But what happens next? What's going on under your skin? Well, it's a biological heist of epic proportions. It's a silent invasion that turns your own cells into factories for the enemy. So what exactly is this parasite's game plan? How does it pull it off? To figure that out, we're going to follow the parasite on its two-part mission. First, we'll meet our culprit, get to know the mastermind. Then, we'll track its invasion of the human body, and after that, see how it uses a mosquito as a getaway vehicle for the next stage. We'll also look at why this causes such specific symptoms, and finally, how understanding all of this is the key to breaking the cycle for good. Okay, let's meet our main character. It's a protozoan called Plasmodium. This tiny, single-celled organism is what's known as an endoparasite, which is just a fancy way of saying it lives inside other creatures. But here's the twist. It's not happy with just one home. To complete its life cycle, it absolutely has to have two. And this two-host lifestyle has a specific name. It's called digenetic. Honestly, this is the absolute key to understanding malaria. You can think of it like a two-act drama. Act 1, that plays out inside us, inside the human body. But for Act 2 to happen, the parasite has to get inside a very specific character, a female Anopheles mosquito. If it can't get to both hosts, its story, well, it just ends. So how does this invasion, Act 1, even begin? It all starts with that bite. When an infected mosquito feeds, it injects the parasite into our bloodstream. But it's not just some random blob. It's in a specific, needle-like form, totally primed and ready for its first mission. Now, you might think the parasite's first target is our blood, right? Nope. Its first stop is our liver. In this initial form, called sporozoates, they make a beeline for your liver cells and invade. And for about a week or two, they just multiply in secret, totally off the radar of our immune system. This is where the numbers get kind of terrifying. A single one of these sporozoids can replicate into tens of thousands of new invaders. So after this covert training phase in the liver cells burst open. They release this massive new army, now called merozoites, back into the bloodstream. And now they have a new target, our red blood cells. Once they get inside, they start this whole new cyclical process of feeding, growing, and multiplying over and over again. And this is where the real damage starts. So once a merozoite gets inside a red blood cell, it starts to transform. Early on, under a microscope, it takes on this really distinctive signet ring shape, like a tiny ring with a jewel. From there, it just feasts on the hemoglobin inside our cells, growing into something called a schizont, which you can basically think of as a parasite factory, just churning out a whole new generation of merozoites. And here it is. This is where all that microscopic biology connects to the symptoms we all know. Every 48 to 72 hours, depending on the exact species, millions of these infected red blood cells all rupture at the same time. They release a new wave of merozoites, sure, but they also release a flood of metabolic toxins. This perfectly synchronized release is what triggers that classic, brutal cycle of intense fever, sweats, and violent chills that define malaria. But for the parasite, this isn't the end of the story. Wrecking our red blood cells isn't the final goal. To truly complete its journey and survive as a species, it needs an escape plan. And this is where that second host, the mosquito, comes flying back into the picture, kicking off the whole sexual phase of its life cycle. You see, not every one of those merozoites is just a clone, destined to replicate forever. Some of them get a totally different set of instructions. They develop into male and female sexual forms called gametocytes. They stop multiplying, and instead they just circulate in the bloodstream, patiently waiting for their ride, the next mosquito to come along for a meal. And this marks a huge shift in the strategy. Inside our bodies, the parasite just multiplies asexually, making copies of itself. But once those male and female gametocytes get picked up by a mosquito, boom, sexual reproduction begins. This leads to a completely new form called an oocyst, which actually develops on the outside of the mosquito's stomach wall. So inside the mosquito's gut, the male and female gametes find each other and fuse. The resulting cell burrows through and forms that oocyst on the gut wall. And here, another incredible amplification happens, a process called sporogony, where a single oocyst can produce over 10,000 new sporozoites. These then travel up to the mosquito's salivary glands, locked and loaded, ready to infect the next human. And just like that, the cycle is complete. Okay, so we followed the entire incredible cycle. But that leaves a question. Why does malaria sometimes feel like a bad flu, and other times it's a life-threatening emergency? Well, the answer lies in the specific species of Plasmodium that's running the show inside the body. That timing of the fever and chills, it's directly tied to the replication speed of the parasite. So for species like P. vivax and P. falciparum, they finish their red blood cell cycle in 48 hours. That causes a fever every third day. But then you have P. malariae, which is a bit slower. It takes 72 hours, which results in a fever every fourth day. The parasite's internal clock dictates the patient's symptoms. But while all malaria is serious, you need to know that one of these species, Plasmodium falciparum, is in a league of its own. It is by far the most dangerous. And the reason is that it makes the infected red blood cells sticky. This can cause them to clump together and form clots that block blood flow to vital organs like the brain. This is what's known as malignant malaria, and it is very often fatal. So learning this incredibly detailed life cycle, it's not just a biology lesson, right? It is the absolute key to fighting back. Every single step in the parasite's journey, from the liver to the blood to the mosquito, every one of those steps is a potential point of attack for us. And this gives us a multi-front war to wage. We can fight the mosquito itself by getting rid of breeding grounds and using insecticides. We can protect ourselves with simple physical barriers like nets and screens. And if an infection does happen, we have drugs like quinine and chloroquine that can attack the parasite directly while it's inside our red blood cells, shattering that destructive cycle. So when you zoom out, you see this isn't just a disease. It's a remarkable story of evolutionary survival. But it's also a story of an ongoing battle. An arms race, really. The parasite is constantly adapting to our drugs, constantly finding new ways to survive. So as we get smarter and smarter at breaking its life cycle, it's a dead certainty that this ancient enemy is going to continue to evolve. Which leaves us with one big question. What will its next move be?